Good evening. Just 2 days. That's how long after the marathon bombings it took for someone to try and trademark the phrase Boston Strong. That should have been a warning that some businesses would try to profit on a phrase intended to honor the marathon victims. We'll have more on that in a moment, but first, our other top stories. Regulations on medical marijuana were unanimously approved today by the state's Public Health Council, clearing the way for the state to begin licensing marijuana dispensaries. And plans to bury Tamerlan Tsarnaev at state prison have fallen through. So far, no cemetery has agreed to accept his body. And now our feature story. The phrase Boston Strong was quickly embraced by a city reeling from a devastating terror attack. It was also embraced by companies that have emblazoned it on products like T-shirts, shoes, candles, and coffee. Almost all of the merchandise carries a promise to donate proceeds to benefit funds like the One Fund. Many of the products are probably legitimate, but how can you tell? Here to discuss that are Barbara Anthony, Undersecretary for Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, Advertising Executive Phil Johnson, and Michael McManama with New England Coffee, which sells a Boston Strong brand. Welcome to all of you.
Good to be here.
It feels like it's really taken off. The momentum is just almost to the point, I'll be honest, it feels tacky at this point. It's like everybody has cashed on it. There are restaurants having, there were Bloomingdale's. I mean, almost everybody has done it. And this is an altruistic factor here, that they are donating portions of it, in some cases all of it, to the One Fund.
Right. No, yeah, I think you're right. It is now. It is a little bit overwhelming. I mean, it's good. I just want to say one thing about the creation of the One Fund that actually Attorney General Coakley mentioned the other day. It's really kind of sidelined a lot of the scammers, because it is legitimate and it's up there and people can go there. But in terms of the, this whole thing, Boston Strong, whether it's a bracelet, a T-shirt, a hat, whatever, my view is this. First of all, if you're going to donate, if you're going to make something and sell it, donate the proceeds. As long as what you're saying is truthful, there's no misrepresentation, consumers can make up their own mind whether they want to purchase the item. I do think, however, that we need to separate the paraphernalia from the giving to help the victims of the bombings. And so what I'm saying is that if you want to give money to help the victims, from my perspective, probably the best and safest way is to go to the website, the One Fund. There's also a First Responders Relief. There's the Boston Firefighters Credit Union Relief. There are legitimate charities. The paraphernalia is fine too, but I think that if you want to donate, that there are direct ways to do that.
Okay, but Phil, a lot of people, and you're in the branding business, are saying, my business is actually going to do what Barbara is suggesting by putting that brand on its product. Because not everybody's going to get out the check and write to the One Fund. So here's a way you can do it and also enjoy my product. Is that the thinking?
First of all, I would putting a logo on something without any action is a worthless activity. So I think from a branding perspective, what I'm interested in, how much action is behind the use of that logo, and is there meaning behind it? And I was just earlier I was looking at Inspiring Generosity, which is a website that tracks charities, and they said they've only, out of 40 brands that are using Boston Strong, only 4 of them are giving 100% of the profits to the One Fund. So I think the balance that I'm looking at from a branding point of view is it really philanthropy? I mean, is it driven by a sense of community? Is it driven by a sense of giving something back to Boston, or is there a profit factor? And I think sometimes there's a fine line, but I mean, certainly what I would advise any client is, don't do that unless it's from the heart, unless you're backing it up with action, unless it's connected to things that you really believe. And I do agree with what you said a minute ago, which is that it can get a little tacky. And there's no reason to sort of display your generosity to the degree that some companies are doing it. You can do it quietly.
Yeah, right. Well, I have to give credit to you, Michael, for coming. Because you can see what we're talking about here. You've got a product, New England Coffee, with Boston Strong.
We do.
And what was your thinking?
we wanted to do something. We made a donation through the company, and I believe there's always a tension line between exploitation and a willingness to give. Yeah. And in our case, as I said, we gave a donation. We wanted to do more. It's a product the sales are limited in the respect that you can only purchase it online or at our coffee shop in Malden. We're not, mass producing it. We're not shipping it to supermarkets for sale. This also allows us to make sure that 100% of the profits will go to the One Fund.
100. Can you hold it up again?
I can.
So 100% of that will go to the?
100% of the profits of this product will go, and you can get it.
The profits?
The profits.
But so your company still takes right. the retail value or whatever?
Well, what we do is we cover the costs.
Yeah.
The cost of the coffee, the cost of the packaging, and the cost of the labor to prepare it.
Why not just give 100? I mean, you're not going to sell that much of it.
Yeah, as I said, we gave a contribution, and we plan to give more.
But is it a marketing tool in a sense too?
That's where I mentioned earlier. There's always a fine line between some sort of exploitation, but coffee is a ubiquitous product. So many households purchase coffee. We're a Boston-based company, fourth-generation, family-owned. Yeah. We're genuine. The last thing we want to do is exploit something like this. All the profits are going right to the One Fund.
So what do you think, Barbara?
Well, I think obviously that Mike his heart is behind what he's trying to do here. And again, I'll just say that if you are making a promise, 100% of the profits, or I've seen stores that say 100% of the price is going. Now, I don't know how they're doing that.
But they're not selling that much of it.
Right. So that's probably some of it. So I think for consumers, that's why I said you really have to separate some of the paraphernalia from your desire to give. I mean, you're not going to spend your time interrogating the owner of the store or the coffee shop. Is this really going to the One Fund? So I think you do have to use your judgment. I mean, obviously Michael here his heart is he's putting his heart right out there in terms of his product. But I can't vouch for every other Boston Strong product.
No,
in the market
because I mean
right now.
the T-shirts is a whole other thing. That was a marketing tool, to sell T-shirts for 26.2, which is the length of the marathon. But they weren't donating that money to the One Fund. I mean, maybe some of those people are, but that was to say, hey, I've got an idea for the next T-shirt, right?
Yes. I mean, I think there's only one product, which is the Boston Strong hat with the bee in it.
That's genuine.
That is giving 100%.
That's the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, the bee. Right.
And I think if you look at the fine print, there's some people who say, we give net profit, proceeds,
right.
all profit. So I think it's very hard. I also pay attention to you have to distinguish between the One Fund and Boston Strong. So they've sort of gotten blended a little bit. And I was in New York yesterday, and I was walking towards the shuttle, and people were getting off from Boston, and there was a woman who had a Boston Strong T-shirt on. And I have to say, I felt a real sense of community with her, and like to see it being recognized.
It's an emotional. I mean, I have an emotional connection to it too. So, bottom line, a pound of coffee, how much money would go to the One Fund?
So, over 40% of this, it sells for $9. So, 40% is profits that will go directly to the One Fund.
So that's pretty good.
It is.
How many pounds do you think you'll sell?
We just started yesterday, so it's very, very early. But we're selling it right through to the time that the fund closes in September 2nd. So we hope to sell as much as we can. But as I mentioned, we want to manage it, which is why it's only sold at newenglandcoffee.com or our coffee shop.
All right. So. Good deal. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Michael,
you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Bill Johnson, Barbara Anthony, as always. Thanks. All right. Well, if you have any questions or concerns about Boston Strong products or marathon-related charities, go to the state's Consumer Affairs website at mass.gov/consumer.